Hello, I'm Lee Harris. I'm an energy intuitive, and every month I take the pulse on what might be showing up for you or those around you energetically. A few headlines for January 2020. Drama healing. Healing from dramatic events that have recently occurred, or perhaps in your case or the case of those around you, finding new ways to deal with what used to show up as drama in your life. Blinding clarity. This is a theme for the whole year of 2020, and it's going to be making its first big appearances in the month of January. And last but not least, the rise of the magical. Magical energy beginning to show up in your personal life, at play, and at work. So we'll take a full look if you stay tuned, and thanks for being here. So welcome to this first energy update for 2020, and this time of year always has a kind of review energy for people. It's burned into our psyches that this is when people take stock, start to think ahead, but it's also interesting that this is the beginning of a new decade. And certainly in terms of spiritual, energetic, astrological terms, the 2020 to 2030 decade is going to be a huge one. And many of you tuned in for my annual energy update, which is an hour-long energy update where I go deep on some of the themes that will show up in the year to come. That is now uploaded here at my YouTube channel, or if you're watching on Facebook, go to Lee Harris Energy on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch my 2020 energy update, which is a deep dive in the full year. But for now, and for January, we have 4 or 5 themes that came to me for those of you who tune in on this video. And the first one is blinding clarity. And this relates to the 2020 forecast. Blinding clarity is going to be something that shows up time and time again throughout this year to come. And this can relate to many different things. It can be you suddenly having clarity about your life or situations, but equally, and more often is going to be the case for many of us on the planet, it's going to be us suddenly having truth revealed to us that we either weren't ready to see, weren't seeing, or weren't expecting. So this blinding clarity can sometimes hit you like a ton of bricks and be something that is unexpected. That can be very painful to process or very shocking at the time that it happens. But as time goes on, we tend to be able to take a long view at why those events come up for us and what it is they're doing. And for everybody, we are being asked to move forward at higher speed than ever before. Also because this planet and this world is changing so fast, much faster than most of us in this body, in this lifetime, have ever really experienced before. So this blinding clarity that's going on is happening personally, it's happening collectively, it's happening about the world at large. And while there's a lot that we can talk about, really what I can focus on with you guys is how that's going to feel to many of you. And so there is often an element of shock, and that's one thing that many of us are familiar with, shock or grief, having to let go when new clarity emerges. But one of the things I want to speak to you about that will be perhaps newer for most of us is a charge of energy that comes with it. This blinding clarity, when it hits you, either it will come through you or it will show up in outside events. It's going to have a charge unlike any other in your past. It's going to bring an electrical energy to your field. It might make you know what you want to do immediately or feel this real sense of fire and wanting to act on something. So for you to just be aware of that charge being something that's going to come through you, it's going to activate you, it's going to elevate you, which is great. But as ever, be mindful about how you act on it. You know, when we get very electrified, we can tend to want to run out into the world and make or force our external circumstances to match the electrical feeling that we have inside us. Sometimes that's what we need to do, and sometimes those are how we make forward strides in life we either previously haven't had the courage to make or didn't know that we could. But equally, it can be a chaotic way of doing things. So if you're familiar with that, you know, bear in mind this charge of energy that comes through you. Let it sit with you, let it move up and down your system, let it stay in your system as long as you can before you make any big or dramatic actions. Unless you're in that group that need to do that, in which case, you know, go for it. What I'm saying isn't going to stop you anyway. It's not for me to stop you, but just to be mindful that when that electrical charge comes in because of this clarity, it can be another stage of shock. It can be another stage of grief, letting go, and inner transformation. So just a word there to consider, especially for those of you who've done it the kamikaze way before. I know that one myself. So you'll be able to feel, this charge, this energy, it's reshaping me, and what can I do with it in the now that is perhaps smaller and less impactful to my outside world, while I build on this energy so that the changes in my energy world, my outside world, can take place in perhaps a smoother way. So blinding clarity is beginning to show up in a bigger way in January, and it will go through the whole year, but it's an energy of transformation. And if in the moment it looks like things are rearranging for you, in you, around you, yes, that's where all your focus will go. But actually, if you look back a year from now or 2 years from now, you'll see that what this blinding clarity is doing is propelling you into a higher place, a more aware place, and more importantly, a more aligned place. You might be being shifted into a reality where you're actually more useful to that reality, or your skills, talents, abilities are able to come out more, or your feelings of being present in life and in love. So it's a tricky time, because that level of blinding clarity has a lot of big effects on relationships. And that leads me to my next point, which is drama healing. So this is interesting. I've never heard this before, but drama healing came in very strongly, and we can look at this many different ways. So drama healing can literally mean there is an actual drama in your life, a physical, something that's very dramatic, very sudden, very painful, very shocking, very toxic, all of those things. But equally, it can mean that you are learning how to navigate outer dramas in a more peaceful, more stable way than ever before. And you'll notice this. You'll actually, if you really look at it and take stock and look back and go, wow, the last time this happened in my life or something like this, I did not react very well. It caused a huge outpouring of emotion in me, and things were unstable for a while. What you'll notice for many is that while drama healing can mean that, yes, dramas are happening in your life to force and induce healing for you, it can also mean the opposite, that you yourself are seeing that you are no longer needing to play out the kind of 3D drama game in quite the same way that you were. And many of you will notice this because you might be the compassionate ear or listener to someone else who is in one of those. And you may have compassion because you remember being there yourself. But equally, there is a kind of rise on the planet around emotional drama for people, as there is so much change happening at high speed. And for many people, it's a shock. I'm not saying it isn't for you in small doses, but most of you listening to this have either been on your path for a while, been aware of how energy works for a while, or been aware that this was always going to be an explosive time on the planet and a time of big changes. So it's less shocking for you what's going on, at least on some levels. So drama healing through or after dramatic events. So it can also mean that if you've been through some big dramas in the last year, or perhaps the last few years, there is going to be an energy of drama healing coming in. So you can really start to lean into that and start to begin to give yourself permission to recognize that the trauma can be behind you. And equally, this will be a great time to go and get whatever kind of trauma therapy you really need, so that you can really work with your body for any shocks that it has been through, so that you don't carry that with you, running anxiety through your next few months. And let's be honest, anxiety is at an all-time high on the planet right now. So anxiety is definitely something for everybody to look at and work with, but also because lots of people are feeling it, it's in the air. So it might be something that you have to be mindful to not get involved in the dramas of others with your emotional body. And many empaths are beginning to learn that. It's like, oh, great, I can hold space, I can listen, but I don't have to run all these emotions through my body, which, like many of you, that's been a real learning curve for me over the years. But that is something that you will be starting to notice is changing energetically. Course correction. This was an interesting one. So course correction is going to be in the air in January and in early February. Course correction is where you have either made a choice or a decision or started to go in a certain path, or you're on the receiving end of a choice, or it may have been the shock or the drama for you. Course correction energy is going to come in very strongly in January, as in there are going to be lots of opportunities for you to course correct either the form of the choice you have made or others have made that have impacted you, or if not the choice of the form or what happened, and course correcting what was done and what happened, course correcting the way you feel about it. Very quickly course correcting the energy of it. Very quickly coming to a place of accepting it and surprisingly being able to move through it much faster than you would have expected or previously been able to. And that links into the drama healing too. So there's a lot of intersection there around drama healing, course correction, and being able to feel open to where you are rather than in recoil from it, closed from it, shocked from it. These are very tender times, and the emotional surface of everybody is much closer to the skin, which is either showing up in beautiful vulnerability and authenticity and people leaning on one another for support and being more open with each other than ever before, or the converse, fight and judgment and defense against what's going on, which is just the heart trying to protect itself from the shock, from the pain, and conflict. And we see that energy playing out on a world scale. So drama healing and course correction are going to intersect in January. The other one for this month is a nice one. It's Rise of the Magical. So we don't just have the Rise of Skywalker in January, we also have the Rise of the Magical. And the Rise of the Magical is going to show up in many different ways, but the specific was in work and in play. So for those of you who are very mission focused, the work that you're here to do, the mission that you're here to have, and perhaps that mission for you is parenting or parenting plus work, you're going to see a lot of magic and opening in the kinds of relationships that you bring into your life to help you with your work, and perhaps just a new awareness of the good place that you're in, because a lot of mission-focused sensitives, change makers, light workers are being really supported right now because we need it. You know, this is going to be this decade is going to bring a lot of challenge with it, but also a lot of energy of transformation. And so you will see a lot of magical synchronicities, connections, opportunities coming up around the work that you do and around the mission that you're here for. But equally, play. And this relates to this new level of connection, openness, vulnerability, and sharing that's available on the planet. And it doesn't mean you should sit at home and wait for it to knock at your door. You know, we definitely have to be proactive. We definitely have to recognize when we've been shut at home for too many years and wonder why we feel isolated. Isolation is one of the issues that we have going on right now. It's a theme on the planet. So we also have to take steps and make strides to walk out of isolation. And I always say, you know, start with making an affirmation of intent. I will bring more magical, loving, wonderful friends into my life this year. I invite wonderful new people to come into my life. And then back up that intention with some actions. Put yourself in some scenarios where you might meet some people to help with what you're bringing in energetically to show you're willing on the ground. So, magical new energies and the rise of the magical at work and at play. So it can really boil down to you feeling more present than you ever have and being able to go, wow, even with all the crazy that's going on in the world, I actually in this moment feel more present, more conscious, more alive. In a few moments it might change again, but right now I actually feel more light and more alive than I ever have. And that's when you know magical energy is in and around you. But when we talk about magical things happening, they are the things that induce that state. Magical meetings, magical opportunities, and as I say all this, abundance comes in. So abundance is going to be a theme in the month of January too, where the magical is concerned. So people giving you experiences, things, opportunities that you perhaps weren't anticipating or didn't know that you could bring to yourself. So there's a real thread of connection that's beginning to happen for those who want to find each other. So be willing for that to come. So to conclude, what we are doing is really opening new ways in this coming decade. We probably most of us aren't going to tune in on the next 10 years. That's not where most of us work with our focus and our minds, but we are at the beginning of a very new decade. And if you cast your mind back to 2010 and how you felt, especially if you were one of those people who thought that 2012 was going to change everything overnight, or you weren't quite sure, or there was some uncertainty, we're in a much stronger time now in terms of it's a strong time on the planet in terms of transformation. And there is actually less uncertainty around what is going to go on with our future than in some ways there was in 2010. Now, on a grounded level, I think there's a lot of uncertainty because we're actually seeing where we're at as a planet. But because of that, we're also a bit more aware of the areas of crisis and the areas of need. Whereas in 2010, I think there was often a lot of magical thinking in the spiritual community. Nothing wrong with that. But I think after 2012, when we're all still here and we're all still here to be part of this 3D world with all the other dimensions we have available to us too, but this era that we're in, and especially when you witness a lot of people leaving. I know lots of people who have exited the planet in not just the last year, but the last few months. So if you are still here, you have something to do, my friend, and you have something to be. Doesn't have to look like doing, it's just who you are with your aura. So we're at the beginning of a decade where a lot of new ways on the planet will open, and also new ways in you, in me, in us as individuals. So if you have a little nervous energy when I say that, that's okay. It's just an indicator that, yeah, you're in that group too. And there are going to be some things and ways of being that you have to let go of in order to move into your next stages. But everything you've walked through is preparing you for where you are right now. So like I said, if you want to take a look at my full 1 year ahead energy update, it's now available on my YouTube channel, which is Lee Harris Energy, if you're watching this on Facebook. And if you wanted to be part of my Rebirth program, which is taking place January 7th through 13th, but if you missed those live dates, it will still be available right up until January the 30th. Rebirth is basically where I, through video teachings, audio, channeling, and also a day from Stephen Washington, who brings mindfulness and body energy awareness for the year ahead, we tackle some of the big themes coming up. So I'll play a trailer for Rebirth at the end of this video if you want to stay tuned and watch it. And for those of you who are already joining us, can't wait to see you when we begin. And you have lifetime access to it, so you don't have to be there live if that doesn't work for you. But coming up, live events, we have a few great events coming up. We have Intuitive Power, which is a one-day event that's taking place January the 18th in Los Angeles, February 1st in Portland, Oregon, and March 1st in Calgary and March 7th in Toronto. I'm hosting a creative retreat called Creative Empowerment with my brother from another mother, Scott Stabile, who is an amazing author and love activist. And that will be at Asilomar in Monterey in California. And we are also bringing my 5-day training for entrepreneurs and change makers impact the world to Scottsdale, Arizona in the first week of April. And if you keep your eyes peeled, you will see something this month appear on this YouTube channel and also on iTunes. My podcast, Impact the World, is launching, touch wood, on January the 20th. We're preparing all the episodes right now, but it will be weekly and it will kick off on January the 20th. So we'll be bringing that to you, and that's all free. So big love, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll play you the Rebirth trailer now. Hope to see you in Rebirth or here again next month for the February energy update. Rebirth is my annual online video and audio course, and this year Rebirth 2020 is going to be more powerful than ever. Why? Because 2020 is going to be a whopper of a year. The themes that I'm going to be bringing to Rebirth 2020 are standing tall, living and loving your purpose and your life boldly, oneness, peace, and compassion, fostering those towards yourself and towards others, and that includes healthy boundaries. Conflict dissolution, very important during these times, the art of adding water to fire and why that's so necessary for all of us right now. Mending the fractured heart. So when we mend our own heart fractures, which is really accelerated on the planet right now, we get to be an ambassador of that for others too. And there is a deepening around that I'm going to explore with you through the video teaching. Also, Stephen Washington will be bringing his body wellness and mindfulness to you in a video module. Davor Bozik is bringing special original music for the Rebirth program, and we kick the whole thing off with a channeled message from the Z's that you will receive as soon as you sign up. And when we actually start the program, which is January 7th through 14th, as well as all the video and audio I've described in the middle days, I'm going to start with a live broadcast and end with a live broadcast. The good news is you don't have to be there on the 7th through the 14th. You can watch the content for the rest of the year, because once you've signed up for Rebirth 2020, you will always have the materials. They'll all be housed for you inside the online course. And one of the things I love most about Rebirth is the online community. We have a private Facebook group as well as the online forum. And last year, over 2,000 people took Rebirth, and still the conversations and the support are alive inside that group. So if you're ready to kickstart your year and you want to live and love boldly like you never have before in 2020, we would love to see you inside Rebirth. Check the link below for more details, and lots of love.